Yeah, heredity. Video, I want you to pay attention to, okay?
Stated Clearly presents What is DNA and how does it work? DNA, also known as deoxyribonucleic acid, is a molecule. It's a bunch of atoms stuck together. In the case of DNA, these atoms combine to form the shape of a long, spiraling ladder, sort of like this one here. If you ever studied biology or saw the movie Jurassic Park, you probably heard that DNA acts as a blueprint or a recipe for a living thing. But how? How on earth can a mere molecule act as a blueprint for something as complex and wonderful as a tree, a dog, or a dinosaur? To help answer that question, let's first take a quick look at amino acids. Amino acids are tiny little chemicals inside our bodies that are so important, they're often referred to as the building blocks of life. There's about 20 different kinds, each with their own unique shape. The neat thing about them is they can be attached to each other kind of like Legos to produce an endless variety of larger particles known as proteins. Amino acids make up proteins. Proteins, along with other chemicals, combine to form living cells. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs, and organs, when they're all put together and functioning, of course, combine to form living creatures like you and me. These proteins that make up our bodies, and keep in mind there's millions of different kinds of proteins, they each have to be formed in the perfect shape in order to function. If they're the wrong shape, they usually won't work. That's where DNA comes in. DNA does a lot of interesting things, some of which we don't fully understand, but one of its main and most well understood functions is to tell amino acids how to line up and form themselves into the perfect protein shapes. In theory, if the right proteins are built at the right time and in the right place, everything else from cells to organs to entire creatures will come out just fine. This here is a simplified model of DNA. It shows us that the steps of the ladder are made up of 4 different kinds of chemicals shown here by different colors and letters. If you look at just one half of the molecule, you can read its chemical sequence or genetic code from top to bottom, sort of like a book. A single strand of DNA is extremely long, millions of letters long. It spends most of its life coiled up like a noodle, living inside the nucleus or the centerpiece of a cell. Amino acids, however, live outside the nucleus in what's called the cytoplasm. To help DNA interact with the cytoplasm and convert those amino acids into proteins, special chemicals inside the nucleus make partial copies of the DNA code. These partial copies, called RNA, look a lot like DNA, but they're shorter, of course, and they're missing one of their sides. Their small shape and size allows them to fit through tiny pores in the nucleus, out to the cytoplasm, and into the mouth of another particle called a ribosome. Ribosomes are protein-building machines. They read the RNA code 3 letters at a time, suck amino acids out of their surroundings, and stick them together in a chain according to the RNA code. As the chain grows, it bends, it folds, and it sticks to itself to form a perfectly shaped protein. Every 3 letters of the RNA code tell the ribosome which of the 20 different kinds of amino acids should be added next. For example, CAA tells the ribosome to grab a glutamine. AGU tells it to grab a serine, and so on. Once a protein is built, it can then go on to do a number of different things, one of which could be to help form a brand new cell. So to answer the original question, what is DNA? DNA is a molecular blueprint for a living thing. How does it work? DNA creates RNA, RNA creates protein, proteins go on to form life. This entire process, as complicated, as sophisticated, as magical as it might seem, is entirely based in chemistry. It can be studied, it can be understood. I'm John Perry, and that's DNA stated clearly.
Okay, I really hope that the video was uh, understandable enough because I myself found that the video is great. I mean, it explained everything in a very clear way. It's and easy to understand. Okay, it was very easy to understand. I really hope you feel the same way as what I feel. Now, let's carry on then. Um, this is a repetition of what we got yesterday, right? Heredity is the passing of genetic factors from parents to offsprings or from one generation to the next. Yeah, there's something uh, passed on by the parents to the children, to the offsprings. Heredity is a synonym for biological inheritance. Biological inheritance. And next,
Sir,
I'm,
I need to
yes,
go to the toilet.
to what? Sorry.
To the toilet.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Feel free to do that. I won't forbid you from doing that, of course. Yeah, I actually I use a template from Genially, and as for this one, I think this is good for me to try to visualize what I've explained before, talking about the structures of inheritance. Okay, how the smallest item, the smallest structure, the simplest one, which was explained as the shorter and missing the half one called RNA, ribonucleic acid. It's at the leftmost of this line. Okay, RNA, ribonucleic acid, is a single stranded um, nucleic bases, okay, array of nucleic bases. That's RNA, and it's shorter compared to DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, which is double-stranded. And as you can see, the background of this presentation, genially, the background of the slide shows us the DNA. It's a famous structure. Everybody knows that. It's everybody familiar with this uh, image whenever they are being introduced or exposed to things like videos or whatever related to science fiction or science. Okay, so DNA, double stranded, um, or we also call it double helix. Yeah, double helix. Now, RNA is a part of DNA. Okay, and then DNA, which is very long. It says the video said it's very long. Okay, uh, builds the gene. Okay, gene is the basic physical and functional unit of heredity. Now, the gene is the component of uh, a larger structure called chromosomes. Okay, chromosome is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids and protein found in the nucleus of most living cells. That's chromosomes. Actually, when you watch the video and you see a nucleus there, and inside the nucleus there was like a thread, okay, and it's like uh, so kusut, yeah. There is a term called chromatin, okay, chromatin. Chromatin is the thread of genes, but when the time comes for the cell, for the nucleus to start the cell division, doing mitosis or meiosis, remember the chromatin will be thickened, okay, become thicker and then condensed, and that's what we call chromosome. Okay, so and then these chromosomes are the component which play play a very important role in heredity, in passing on genetic traits or characteristics from parents to offsprings. Yeah, I really hope you understand this. Is there any question? Not yet? Then I'm continuing. I'm showing you again an image of RNA and DNA. Okay, the one on the left is DNA, the one on the right is RNA. As you can see, RNA is single-stranded and DNA is double-stranded, double helix. Yeah, and you see base pair here, the nucleic base. Okay, and then helix of sugar phosphate. I really hope you still remember the. Oh yeah, remind me to share you again this presentation file, Genially file. And I am reminding all of you to make sure that you do a repetitive learning using the file we used yesterday, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, yesterday. Which is Wednesday. Oh, 2 days ago. Okay, please do make sure of that. Now, this one is deoxyribonucleic acid. This one is ribonucleic acid. And we also talked about the nucleic bases found or become the components of these strands. Okay, these strands. First, in case of DNA, remember that there are 4 nucleic bases, right? Thymine, cytosine, adenine, and guanine. I really hope you still remember this. And I really hope also that you still remember the mnemonic you can use to remember them, especially talking about the pair. Remember that they are pair, okay? Adenine and thymine, pay attention. Adenine and thymine, A-N-T, is called purine. Purine is in your book, purine, while guanine cytosine is called pyrimidine. Adenine, thymine, apples on the tree, cars in the garage. Apples on the tree, cars in the garage. So the pairs of adenine is thymine, the pair of cytosine is guanine. Hope you remember that and understand. We got a similar situation in case of RNA, but as for the RNA, the thymine is replaced by uracil. I really hope you still also remember that. So it's no longer apples on the tree, cars in the garage. In this case, it's just apple is under and cars in the garage. Okay. Never hesitate to ask me question whenever necessary. Okay. Then I'm going to continue if there is no interruption. Any interruption? Okay. I want to remind all of you also about these terms, genotype and phenotype. We've talked about this before. This slide is only try to help you recalling this thing and others. So genotype is defined as genetic code of individuals. Genetic code of individuals. That's why I chose this picture, the picture of DNA, okay, animated, because yes, talking about genotype is something within, something we cannot see with our eyes, something which is inside, but it determined how it appears from the outside. So genotype is genetic code, which usually symbolized by letters, the use of letters. And I also hope that you remember that later we are going to talk about the dominant and recessive alleles. Talking about genotype, the dominant will be represented by the capitalized letters, the big letters, while the recessive alleles will be symbolized by the small letters. Okay, that's genotype. While phenotype is the expression of genotype. Okay, the expression of genotype, which can be observed. So if the gene then like a certain composition, then the what it appear is like this. This clapping animal. Okay, genotype, phenotype. Okay, now next slide would be about the dominant recessive. I talked about it just now. So dominant is the allele which will express its trait even if there is only one copy of it. So remember that a trait in living organism's body determined by this thing called allele, a pair of genes, right? Uh, so there are two of them, and it could be it is possible that the two are similar or the two are different. So if the two are dominant allele, then the trait will be expressed. But even if there is only one allele which is dominant, the trait will also be expressed. That will be different compared to recessive. The recessive one, they cannot express themselves, they cannot express the trait if there is a dominant allele. Whenever there is dominant allele, the recessive allele will be suppressed, will be masked, will be blocked, something like that. Okay, and the recessive alleles can only be able to express their themselves if in the alleles they are both recessive. I hope you remember that. Okay, and parental filial. This is another term found in your book. I really hope you have read your book. It's highly recommended that you read your book. Okay. But parental, from the word, I guess you can guess what that means. Parental means related to parents. In bahasa Indonesia, it could be like induk. Bicara tentang induk dari organisme, maka itu adalah parentalnya. Sementara keturunannya, the offsprings, anakannya, ya, it's called filial. Filial means related to the offsprings. Later, when we talk about the hybridization, monohybrid, the hybrid, and so on and so forth, you will also see terms like F1, sorry, P, F1, F2, F3, and so forth, and so on. P is parental, okay? F1 is the first filial, so maybe P adalah orang tua, papi mami, okay? F1 adalah kamu, yeah. And then if you see F2, that will be the offspring of F1, something like that. So berarti kalau P adalah papi mami, F1 adalah kamu, dan mungkin sudah menikah nantinya, maka F2 adalah anak-anak kamu. Okay, parental filial. Okay, I guess that's it.
Be strong.